Well, the Straits Times China correspondent Elizabeth Law joins us live from Beijing to share more on this. Liz, tell us more about the new measures China announced this morning.
Right. So China announced basically three new measures in a statement that they put out quite late last night, past midnight Beijing time actually. So obviously it was to catch the audience in Washington. So firstly, they said that 5 media outlets, which are the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, Voice of America, and Time Magazine, would have to report on all their staffing, their finances, and their properties in China. That's number one. Number two is basically that all American journalists who work for the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and WAPO will now have they have 4 days to report themselves to the Foreign Ministry, and then they have to surrender their press cards in 10 days. Third thing is that China says that it reserves the right to take any actions, reciprocal actions, they said, for what they call the US's discriminatory practices on their journalists in Washington.
Liz, on that note, what do the bans on US journalists entail?
Right. So there are some 13 people that we know who are affected by this, Americans who are working for these 3 organizations. We have one, Jerry, from the Washington Post, and 6 people from the New York Times and 6 from the Wall Street Journal. So what this means is that they will have to give up their press cards. And without a press card, and this is press cards that are expiring at the end of 2020. Press cards here are renewed on a yearly basis, so there are quite a lot of that. And without a press card, it means that you can't work here in China, and you can't renew your residency visa anyway, because a prerequisite for that is to have a press card. So this essentially means that they have been expelled from this country.
Liz, does the expulsion of American journalists then show that the Sino-US relationship is at its breaking point?
That is what a lot are saying, and analysts are actually calling this a race to the bottom. Richard McGregor, senior fellow at the Lowy Institute, actually described this as a fight that the US should not have picked, because in a race to the bottom, when it comes to media, China is obviously going to win. And we don't know what other cards that China has left, because there are quite a lot of American journalists that are working here with all other media organizations as well. And because of what China said, it's reciprocal actions that it reserves the rights to take, it means that we don't know whether or not they would want to take further action against these other American journalists, or what else they might do. The thing is that is this unexpected? Not quite. I mean, tensions have been brewing between both countries for quite a while now. It's been going on for years, but then the Trump administration obviously has been very firm and taken very aggressive action against Beijing, and we saw the trade war for the last better part of 2 years, and then there was sort of an uneasy truce in the beginning of in mid-January actually, which obviously as this coronavirus outbreak started, it has now all pretty much fallen apart. Would we see this escalate? I think it could, but to what extent, we're not sure.
Liz, I believe this is the first time we are speaking to you since you went back to Beijing. Now, you've been under quarantine since returning, as mandated for all incoming travelers. How have you been coping?
So far, so good. I have been trying to maintain a routine. Dawn, our bureau chief, is back here as well. She just got back last weekend. I got back on Tuesday. So basically that is my table, because I'm trying to find different ways and different parts of the apartment to work at, so I don't get bored. And I've been trying to make sure that I keep to a routine. At least for me, I'm allowed to leave my apartment and go to the gate of the estate to pick up my grocery deliveries. So that's been good. I've brought a curry puff back from Singapore to help with like the sort of quarantine boredom, and my curry puff ration has now run out, but I'm still trying to keep my spirits up. Dawn and I check in on each other every day as well, which is great. So both of us don't go mad and start scratching at the walls. So far so good. Thanks for checking in.
Before we let you go, when does your quarantine end?
It ends next Tuesday, but unfortunately, I did not get flowers for dutifully serving my quarantine.
Right. Well, stay safe, Liz. Always a pleasure. That was China correspondent Elizabeth Law.
And those are our top stories for today. For more news and videos, log on to straitstimes.com.